Good morning, everyone. It's Stephen Williams, founder and president of the creditrepairshop.com. And in today's video, I'm going to answer some questions that I got over the weekend. Get a lot of questions, get a lot of emails, but these are some of the ones that I tend to get a lot of, especially when I make videos that are focusing on them. So I'm going to talk about CPN numbers, talk about summons, because a lot of people are getting court summons for debt that they owed, and statute of limitations. And then I'm going to end it with talking about budgeting, increasing your income, and positive thinking. All right, so let's get started. There was a question that came about the CPN numbers. This is where you get a number. You can use a CPN in place of your Social Security number, and a lot of people are doing this this is like an option that a lot of people was using when they ran into credit problems with their current Social Security number, because that's where the credit report starts with. One of the things that they validate on there is the Social Security number. So people were using a CPN number to reestablish a whole different credit profile. And I had a video where I said, be careful with that, because I put an article where it showed a group of people were arrested for doing this. And then people had either made statements or comments or had questions about, well, they said CPNs, they are legal. You can legally get a CPN, and that is true. You can legally get a new number, but it's usually reserved for severe circumstances, or if you never had a Social Security number, or like severe circumstances could be severe ID theft. It could be you in the witness protection program. A lot of people don't even know that a lot of people get reestablished with a CPN number when they go witness protection. So there's severe, also for people that have people that got divorced and they were being abused by their spouse. They could be given a CPN different number so they can reestablish in a different area, so they can't be traced down using their Social Security number. So there's different reasons why these are made. People that come from other countries use them. But it's not supposed to be used for if you had bad credit and then you want to reestablish yourself using a CPN number so you can run from your original credit history. That is what the problem is. That's where the problem starts, and a lot of people have been getting in trouble doing it. And to stack on what other people have been doing, they'll use a CPN to reestablish and get credit and get loans, and then don't even pay on that. So they're using it in a way to defraud the system, not to even just reestablish as a second chance. So that's my response to those. Now, the next one, I had a question about summons questions, where a person said, I got the summons. Well, they said a friend of theirs got the summons, and they can't find where the questions are. And it is tricky, because it looks like they're statements, like they're saying you owe this amount. This is the last reported balance on the statement. Those are actually questions, but they could either have numbers by them or they could be paragraphs. But those are not statements. They're actual questions, and you have a right to answer those questions, even if those answers are just a simple yes. It may be you reside at this address. You're thinking that that's just a statement, you reside at that address. No, that's a question that they put on the summons, because if that's not you and you answer, well, no, I don't reside at that address. No, that is not me. No, that is not an address that I ever lived at. Then that summons could actually fail to be held up in court. So they ask that. But what it is that it's tricky, because it looks like they're things that you would automatically say yes to, and it's like it's wrote as if it's a statement, but it's actually a question. Someone else had a question that they said that they got a summons and they didn't sign for it. They refused to sign for it. Just because you refuse to sign for a summons does not mean that you were not served. They could just say that the courts have allowed it to be that you were properly served. You may not have signed for it, but they tried to serve you at your last known address. So that does not mean that you're not properly served. Now, there's things that you could do in court to delay the process by not being properly served. But if you don't show up to court and you were served, and then they go to that court date and they tell the judge they tried to serve you, and then if they even have proof that they tried to serve you but you wouldn't sign, and they go in to get a default judgment, they're going to get it. So you have to go to court even if you wasn't served. You should look up on your court online to find your court's docket schedule and find out when your court date would be set, so they don't get a default judgment, because you're going to make it easy for them. They want you to try not to sign, because you're just you won't know the date, you won't know the time. They get a default judgment and then puts your whole case into another category when you could have won it at the beginning up front. The next one is a person typed that they had a question about that they had a debt that was served. I'm not 100% sure, but it was a debt that was served to, a judgment, that a summons that was served for a debt that was back in 2008. If it's a summons, this is like an easy no-brainer. As long as it was not a default judgment and then they ended up finding you at your new address, or they caught up with you, this is going to be an easy one, because you're going to be able to say that it's past statute of limitations regardless, as long as that was the last time that you ever made a payment on that debt. Now, but what I see a lot of people getting confused on and getting mixed up on is that they had a debt, it got a judgment back in 2008. The judgment, nothing was done. They didn't come after you. They didn't do a garnishment or anything. Someone else picked up on that debt years later, and now they're summoning you to court on the judgment. But a lot of people, or you may be thinking that this is they're summoning you to court on that original debt from where you think it was left off at, which was from the original creditor, or if a debt collector purchased it back then. It could actually be you got served on a judgment and they're like taking it to the next step. So you have to always be careful, and the best way to find that out is to look. Every city and state has a court website where you can see if you have a judgment against you. So if you are being served, you can look on there to make sure that it's not a judgment that's being served to you, and they're just taking it to the next step to try to get a garnishment against you. So that's what I would say to that. But if it is not a judgment that's being served, and it's just straight up, they're trying to get a judgment, they're serving you a summons, come to court on a 2008 debt, this is a no-brainer. Because they're doing the summons, you're going to have to answer the questions, even though some of them may be yes about your address or your, some whatever question they have in there. But you need to also add a response to the court saying that this debt is past the statute of limitations for contract law. You can send that to the debt collector, but you need to send that to the judge too, because this is going to be your argument when you get into court. All right, so those were the questions, some of them, and I'm going to start answering questions on Monday that people usually over the weekend place on the videos during the week. Now, let's get into solving the solutions to these problems that a lot of people are facing. When I went through my financial issues or financial trouble, the way that I got myself pointed in the right direction is the number one thing that you got to do is make a decision. You had to make a decision in your mind that you are going to change whatever you're doing that got you into that situation, because the answer is not going to be on the outside. It's going to be coming from within you. And a lot of people get confused with that. A lot of people think that someone is going to give them all of the answers and they're just going to explode and everything's going to change the next day. But this is actually why a lot of people can read books. You can watch my YouTube videos. You can watch other YouTube videos. People can come to you and they can give you things that work for them, and then they don't work for you. And that's because you have not changed on the inside. The problem is when you change on the inside, people that you're even yourself and other people are going to say, who do you think you are? Why are you doing that? And you're going to feel uncomfortable because you haven't experienced what the new outcome is going to be. So you're going to keep reverting back to what you're used to. And even if it's miserable, you're going to be happy reverting back to misery because you understand misery. Your body understands misery. That's why people can be miserable their whole life and never change, and that's because they feel comfortable with that misery. But when you try to change, you're even more uncomfortable because you don't know the outcome. At least you know the outcome of your misery, which is more misery. But when you try to change and you try to be better, you know that you're trying to do something, but you don't know what the outcome is going to be, and that's what makes you even more afraid and have more anxiety. But I'm telling you, as my own testimony and telling you what I've seen from other people that I've given this advice for, what I've seen with other people, is that you yourself have to change on the inside. Me, I had to change on the inside because the inside, whatever, how you feel and what you think of yourself on the inside is what reflects and grows and becomes your reality on the outside. So the first thing you got to do is you got to make a decision that you're going to change. And you don't need to know the answer or the outcome of what that change is going to look like. You just know that you're going to decide to change. The next thing is, when it comes to finances, is you're going to have to set a budget on the way that you live your life. You're going to have to either downgrade, or you're going to have to figure out exactly what your starting point is. You have to look at everything that you're doing and then start making small decisions on changing those bad habits. So if you write it down on a piece of paper, it's going to be very simple, because if this is a bad habit, all you have to do is say, what is the opposite of doing that? And then you need to do it without understanding what's going to happen on the other side. You just know what your ultimate goal is, but you cannot lead changing from the inside by having to know 100% what's going to happen. Because if you do that, you're going to revert back. The next thing is you need to focus on increasing your income. When my wife and I started our first company back in 1990, and I had just got out of the military, and she was working in a factory. I was working as a security guard. We knew at that time that we did not want to live that way, and we had it in our mind that we wanted to have a better life, and we had tried a lot of different things. We were 20 years old at that time, and they didn't work. But we had a goal. We said the goal was to get to a certain income level. And at that time, it was $6,000 a month. That's what our goal was. But we didn't actually know how we were going to do it. But we tried a whole bunch of different things. And then when we got our publishing company going, and we far exceeded that, way far exceeded it. We didn't know that that was going to be the business that got us there. We just focused on the goal, and then that became the business that we still own to this day. almost 30 years later, that business has made millions of dollars for us, has allowed us to live a life that at that time we didn't even dream of. We just thought we just wanted to have a very good income. I have employees that I pay. You know, back then I was going to be the employee. Me and my wife were the employees, and if we could support ourselves, that was good enough. But now we have employees. For years we've had employees, and so you don't know how it's going to all end up on the other side. You have to just let things happen, but you have to change on the inside and income increase. If you're not making enough money, you're going to have to make some changes to bring in more revenue in different ways. And the best way to bring in more revenue is to find something that you love to do. I love the marketing business. I love the advertising business. I love the credit repair business and the other businesses that I have. I want to be in those businesses. There's other opportunities that I had that I ended up shutting down just because I did not feel myself wanting to put a lot of work into them. And when it comes to income, it could come from different ways. It could come from being in a business. It can come from investing in a business and then drawing income from that business. It can come from getting a bigger moving to a better job to where you're gonna be able to increase your income. It could be a sales position where your income is based off of your what you do, not based off of what they want to pay you. So there's several different ways that you can increase your income. And then on the other side of that is positive thinking. You have to wake up every morning thinking on a positive side of things, thinking positive about yourself, thinking positive about the day. You can't wake up thinking about what went wrong, things that happened that you didn't like. I can give you an example of something that happened over the weekend, just for myself in income that I lost from one of my companies. It was, let's see here. So that's 4. So we got 1, 2, 3. I lost $8,000 worth of income from one of my companies. $8,000 worth of income that was coming in per month to me. I lost that over the weekend from a group of customers, and so I'm going to be working with that sales rep today to see what was the breakdown with that group of customers that we lost over the weekend. I mean, just think, when you have $8,000 worth of money that you expected to get, that you had built up from a revenue source, all of a sudden you lose all of that over the weekend. But I didn't wake up saying, woe is me, I lost $8,000 worth of income. I woke up saying, let's get back at it, let's rebuild that, and then let's see what we could do to bring back in those customers. But even if we don't, we still go through a rebuilding process and bring in new customers for that particular revenue source. So it's never the end of the world. You can always rebuild. I lost, let's look at this one now. Another client, I lost $15,000, $15,860 worth of, that's for a year, from one client in my publishing revenue source that I lost. And this was one where I had done business with this family for years, probably since I would say 1994. Very, very, very good friend of mine. He passed away. He owned well, I won't say what type of business it is, just in case. I don't want to break anyone's privacy, but very good relationship with him. He passed away about a year and a half ago, 2 years ago, and family members took over the business, and now looks like the business is gonna just go down. Uh, you know, People probably would appreciate now him more on how he had built that company and how he had held it up and how he had kept things going and made it seem so easy because he wanted to be in that business. He understood it. But now that the family members had took it over, they probably really appreciate everything that he had did for them over the years by making sure that things were taken care of. And but now it's gone. It's going to be gone. And but for me, I lost that revenue source, but we have to replace it with someone else, with another company. I mean, that's what business is all about. So, but bottom line is that I didn't get down on that. What you have to think about, and the way my thinking is just positive thinking. You have to move on, and you have to think positive, and you have to, replace and just keep moving forward. You can't start thinking negative about anything that's going on, because tomorrow, tomorrow, the next day is always going to be a better day if you on the inside know that you had the power to make the changes. You had the power to replace income. If you've lost income, you had the power from inside. Other people don't control that power. So if you need help, or if you have any questions, leave your comments and questions below. This is Stephen Williams. If you haven't subscribed to my channel, please do that. Please tell your friends and family about it. I'd really appreciate it. If you need help, you can click the links below. I have a link to get your credit reports. I have a link if you want to go to my website and if you need help with your credit. Again, this is Stephen Williams, founder and president of thecreditrepairshop.com, and make it a great day.